Oops, got it. Got it. Oops, I need to put on my, sorry.
Okay,
Well,
we are live.
Great. Good evening and welcome to the August 23rd Social Justice Task Force meeting for the City of West Hollywood. It looks like we'll call this meeting to order. So very excited for that. Shannon, do you want to do the land acknowledgement? I think, Jasmine, can you display on screen?
Sure, give me 1 second. Let me know. Oh, you can see the screen.
There we go. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. The West Hollywood, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The West Hollywood Social Justice Task Force acknowledges that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino, Tungaya, and sorry, I'm gonna mess this up, and I don't have my glasses on, and Gabrielino Hitch peoples.
That sounded great to me. Good job. All right, Task Force Member Smith, can you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you for that. All right, so let's move on to roll call. Jasmine, do you want to lead us in roll call, please?
Sure. Chair Wilson,
Here.
Vice Chair Zamilpa,
Here.
Task Force Member Smith,
Here.
Task Force Member Morton,
Here.
Task Force Member Washington,
Here.
Task Force Member Separok.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, now let's go to public comment, please. This time is set aside. Oh, you know what? I skipped something. Let's go to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes. All right, Jasmine, do you want to help us out with the vote for the approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes, Zamilpa.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Second. There we go.
Okay. Chair Wilson,
Aye.
Here, aye. Sorry.
Vice Chair Zamilpa,
Aye.
Task Force Member Smith,
Aye.
Task Force Member Morton,
Aye.
Task Force Member Separok,
Aye.
Task Force Member Washington.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. All right, now we will go to public comment. So public comment, this time I set aside public comment. The public is given the opportunity to address the Social Justice Task Force on any item of any responsibility. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Social Justice Task Force cannot take action on any items not listed on the posted agenda. Each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes, and time may be limited or increased based on the discretion of the task force. This public comment period is to address the Social Justice Task Force on agenda items and/or items of general interest within the jurisdiction of the Social Justice Task Force. If there's anyone who didn't sign up to speak and wish to provide comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Jasmine, do you know if we have anybody that signed up ahead of time?
I didn't receive any requests, and I don't see anyone on the Zoom either.
All right. Then let's move on to number 6. So finalizing the subcommittee recommendations. So Jasmine, do you want to walk us through that or?
Sure. Yeah. So
Okay.
I can kind of at least facilitate the conversation. What we were planning on doing tonight is just reviewing the recommendations that you all have provided. Some of the groups have already made revisions. So I believe we just wanted to make sure the entire task force was able to participate in that conversation and view the finalized list of recommendations. So let me know if you can see my screen. And let me know if I need to make it bigger.
Oh, we can see.
Looks good to me.
Okay. So my understanding is that the Economic and Community Development Subcommittee has pretty much put their final stamp of approval on their recommendations. I received the list from you all, the list of agencies and organizations that we can include in the final report. So at this point, I think that subcommittee is set. Let me know if there were any other changes that you all wanted to make, and I now realize too, Chair Wilson, that I think you're the only person from the subcommittee here tonight.
I was given a heads up though, so at least from task force member Appelos. So yes, I think we were all squared away via our last interaction. So
Perfect.
remember, these are just examples and not to be taken as a full list.
Correct.
And may require additional deep dive also.
Correct.
On whether that's a good fit for West Hollywood.
Sounds good. Let's move to the Public Safety Subcommittee. So Vice Chair Zamilpa and Task Force Member Smith, we updated the recommendations to reflect the conversations that we had via email. So I just wanted to make sure with the two of you, since Task Force Member Desai kind of did some of this or some of the revisions, that you all were okay with the language. If there was anything else you wanted to include, we can kind of talk about that tonight. And I know for the section under recommendation 3, a lot of the information that's bulleted will probably be included in the background of the report. But we wanted to at least include it here so you all could provide feedback. So that way, when we do add it to the background, we include the information that you want us to.
Yeah, I'm aligned with everything that's the way it's currently presented.
I agree.
Awesome. Great, this is moving very smoothly. Let's see, Housing and Homelessness and Social Services Subcommittee. So as a reminder to the entire task force, the Housing and Homelessness Subcommittee was probably the only group that saw updates and changes to their recommendations in real time. The city did receive Project Home Key funding, so the group scheduled a meeting, I think it was last week. We may have met just as a subcommittee 2 weeks ago just to talk about things and debrief a little bit about the feedback that they received throughout some of the listening sessions. And last week, we were able to meet with the city's strategic initiatives manager, Corey Plank, and she provided some really great input for the subcommittee members in terms of some of the things that they could incorporate and reflect in their recommendations. So Task Force Member Washington, I know you sent over some possible language, but I wanted to kind of open up the floor to you and then Task Force Member Morton and Task Force Member Sephiroth to make sure everyone was kind of on the same page about that, and then get feedback from the rest of the task force members in case they had input as well.
I don't see I guess I'm totally fine with everything. Giselle did a great job. We kind of went over things together. So I think I'm fine with it if Jorge's fine with it.
Jorge, did you get a chance to take a look? I could
Yes,
share too, Jasmine, if you
yeah, I
have
appreciate
updated
it.
language shown.
I appreciate the email that you sent to us with all the information. I think it was everything that we talked in the last meeting with the person to give us the information from the project kit. I'm okay with that. I think it was a good advance. We did little changes, but they are okay. They are good.
Okay, so let me add that section in. And then we will revisit that. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and then add that information in. That way everyone will be able to view it tonight.
And then are we gonna have a final vote then?
Sorry, Chair Wilson, say that one more time.
Are we gonna have a final approval of our recommendations as a team?
Yes. Yes. Let me add this here. Okay. So on the screen, you should see the recommendations that were revised by the Housing and Homelessness Subcommittee.
Oh, okay.
Fourth recommendation is new. Recommendation number 1 highlights the fact that Project Home Key did go through, so we pivoted to ongoing funding to support that initiative. Please read away.
So that's gonna, so that actually changed. Oh, got it. So this, yeah, this is different.
Yeah.
Does that mean the first, so the first, do you want to just walk us through each of the recommendations then?
Sure. Shanna, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it. So basically when we were talking with Corey, it was like, they got the funding. So what could we do to support Project Home Key in the Holloway now? So instead of, earmarking funding for it, it's come through. So we were looking at maybe funding it through 2025 because money will run out. So the first recommendations changed a bit. It's now allocating funds for the ongoing operations and services related to the Project Home Key through 2025. WeHo's estimated timing for the site and construction begins February of 2023 and completion by summer of 2023. Project Home Key wraparound services will need continued support to provide housing placement, mental health services, general healthcare services, case management, financial literacy, etc. So we thought, why not get some money to fund them through 2025 so they don't have to worry about that when construction and everything is over. And then, so that also leads into our recommendations for 2 and 3. So two,
Can we just go one at a time? Is that okay? Just
yeah, so recommendation 2 is basically the exact same as it was before. So 2 is designate multiple safe spaces for resources. This is meant, for in the interim, but also all year round. But ideally, every park in West Hollywood should have a space where people can receive wraparound services, such as walkers, storage space, phone charging stations, showers, bus passes. These wraparound services could include essential resources on diversion strategies to connect people to housing and services. So that's not only interim while people, don't have the hallway, but that couldn't be ongoing as well throughout the years. And also for recommendation 3, we wanted to allocate funds for prioritizing hiring of diverse staff, and that included staff with lived experience, because Corey's team right now only has like 5 people on it, and this is a big project. So all of these things like the project home key, hallway building, if we want to give all of these services out to people, we're going to need to address hiring. So so hiring diverse staff, including lived experience, to support West Hollywood's 5-year plan to address homelessness in our community. For example, the current subcommittee, Corey's team, only consists of 5 people, and they should use more funds to staff and address this monumental effort. So that's 2 and 3. And then we added a 4th, which we didn't have before, which was allocate funds to social services for rental assistance to keep people in their homes, because when we got all of the feedback, a lot of it was like, what are we doing for preventative measures? And after talking to Corey, we know that the city has earmarked different pots of money for prevention, and they're using like the Affordable Housing Trust and the income pilot program that they're trying out to circumvent homelessness before it happens, but also adding in a little rental assistance we thought might help as well.
I'm smiling because I think honestly, you guys really really built these up and expanded. I think you guys did such a good job in beefing them up. If you don't mind, can I ask a couple questions?
Please.
On one, so is the big part of that recommendation not just the funding through 2025, but also the wraparound services? It seems like, or was wraparound services part of Project Home Key? Help me understand. I don't know.
So Project Home Key is going to have wraparound services as well. And then so the funding piece is just going to help continue those services. Corey mentioned some really awesome stuff that I think I listed here. So the financial services, mental health, general health, job help, things like that. And then additional wraparound services at the parks with recommendation number 2.
Yeah. And then I have a nitpicky on recommendation 3, which basically means that you guys did a great job. If someone's giving you weird nitpicky stuff, that usually means you did a great job and they're trying to pick on something. So, but in this case, it says the current subcommittee Corey's team. Just a question here. I don't know what subcommittee means or references. And the other pieces, should we use Corey's last name? Because I don't really know who that is. Even though I probably should.
Good call.
But
So
what does subcommittee mean? I'm really asking from an education standpoint too.
Well,
yeah,
I guess for this would be strategic initiatives for Corey. Okay. So we could edit that.
So for example, one of the strategic initiatives.
Corey's team is the strategic initiatives team.
Oh, strategic initiatives team.
So
Okay.
strategic, yeah.
Thanks, Jasmine. And if you could add Corey Plank.
Yeah, cool.
I
don't have any more questions. Does anybody else have questions or comments?
I was just going to ask if you all even want this portion to be included in the recommendation. This could kind of be something that,
Background.
yeah, we can include that in the background and just say that the subcommittee included in this recommendation is support for funds to be allocated to increase staffing in the strategic initiatives division. So that way they're able to kind of carry out a lot of the things that we've either recommended or that they're already working on as part of their work plan.
Sounds good to
I'm
me.
fine with that.
Okay,
Background. Giselle?
Yep, that's fine with me.
I'll take
I
this.
think if we emphasize 5 though, because she's doing so much work with 5 people.
That works. Yeah, we can definitely
Yeah.
do that.
Jasmine, can you give us a little bit more detail about how the background piece is going to be presented? Is it going to immediately follow each recommendation, or are you going to come back to support those?
So, yeah, I was actually going to talk a little bit more about the report a little bit later, but we can talk about it now. So I think what we plan on doing, similar to the updates or the structure of the staff reports that we've provided to council, the quarterly update and then the most recent update I think we provided in March of this year. The goal is to give some background about the task force, about how you all came to be, the creation of the task force, who all has, which divisions and departments have attended meetings, the information that they've shared, how you all identified your priority areas, how you created your subcommittees, what the subcommittees have been doing, and then talking about the community listening sessions and the feedback that you all have gotten there. And then following that will probably be an introduction to the recommendations. And the goal is to kind of provide information on how you all kind of arrived at the recommendations that you did, referencing, you know, previous work and also the feedback and input you got during the community listening sessions, and then going into the recommendations, if that makes sense. So the background will be provided, so that way there's a full picture that's kind of painted, sort of speak, and then the specific recommendations will follow. We're hoping that we'll have the report for your review by the September meeting. So that way you all can provide input on that, because we plan on bringing that to council at the 2nd October meeting. So you'll all have a chance to view the report before it goes to council. Oh, I see Andy has her hand raised.
Yeah. Andy, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, if I can, thanks, Jasmine. I don't have anything to add on that. I think that was a good summary. I wanted to make a suggestion for recommendation 4 if the subcommittee is open to it. The Social Services Division does allocate funding for rental assistance already, but I think, you know, there's probably a higher need than what we do. I would suggest maybe allocate additional funds to social services for rental assistance or other programs to keep people in their homes or rapidly rehouse them or something like that, so that it's a little bit, you know, accepting what we have now, but also we think we can do more, if you're open to that. And then the program is the Guaranteed Income Pilot Program. That would be in quotations there.
Is there an amount that you would recommend?
Me or
Yeah.
the subcommittee?
Yeah.
I don't know the number now that we're allocating. I know during COVID, we used a lot of emergency funds for rental assistance. And so that pot was greatly increased over the past couple of years, but I don't know what the normal rate is.
Mhm.
But I can find out for you if you'd like.
That's really a question more for the Housing, Homeless, and Social Services Subcommittee.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the change. We were under the impression that the rental assistance had stopped.
That might have been the case for like the emergency rental assistance, but I know we do have an ongoing program with NCJW that's funded just through the social services contracts, but the COVID emergency rental assistance, I'm not sure if that's still in place.
Okay. So
I like the allocate additional funds. If we give a dollar amount, it may be limiting.
Well, I have something to say, because sometimes, you know, people don't lose their apartment because they cannot pay. Sometimes it's because the landlords find a way to try to sell the building or something, you know, or they wanna make it like a Airbnb. So how we can protect to those renters, you know? So maybe we can add something like a law or something to protect these people to being taken out of their places, because it's not all the time that people lose their apartment because they cannot pay. Sometimes it's for different reasons.
Yeah, I think Task Force Member Sabara brings up a good point. I know that the Housing Commission has been discussing elements of that, but I'm not sure if at this point, just knowing that we are on timeline, like if making note of things like continuing to make sure that we have you know, a certain percentage of rent controlled buildings. Like I know Viva LA is a company that keeps popping up, seems like more and more on every single block. Is that affecting, you know, our you know, rent control in these areas? I don't know, but I do think it is a good thing to note. Just not sure what the language or research is behind that, just given this late stage.
Okay, any additional comments? Thank you, by the way, Vice Chair Zamapa. Okay, so
Sorry, I just wanted to be clear. Was there anything that, considering Task Force Member Seprock's comments, was there anything, any additional language that you all kind of wanted to add for that recommendation 4?
Giselle and I really didn't research that portion. So I would need just maybe some time for language, unless anyone has any suggestions.
I think it's just like due diligence to ensure affordable housing continues to be a priority for the city. I think sort of covers it.
Okay.
I like that. So right after home, keep people in their homes.
Yeah, because I hear that, you know, that sometimes the landlords don't take care of the buildings, you know, to make renters to just get tired and go, because, you know, it's so hard for somebody renting a place to tell to the landlord, hey, I have all this time living here, change the carpet, change something. They don't do it because they told me that the penalty the landlords pay when somebody requests to change the carpet or something like is very low, like $8, $10 for fine. So maybe we can try to find a way to get a higher fine, if the landlord avoid to give a decent place to the renters to have. Because I always say, why landlords never want to do anything for the buildings? And that's, I asked some people, they say that what happened that they find that the landlords pay is like $8-10 anytime that they don't want to do to change something for the apartment. They never want to do anything.
How do we feel about support the city's commitment to, Danny, I'm trying to remember what you said.
I think something like just like going through the due
We want
diligence of maintaining the
affordable.
rent control, the affordable housing within the city.
And
Or
maybe
available for, I think that came up, like addressing the landlords wanting to use Airbnbs.
Well, or maybe have a lawyer or something. That they can help this group of people when the landlord is trying to take everybody out just because they have other plans for the building, because that happens very often.
something to the effect of maybe, and this is maybe a question for staff, is there I know we have like I'm not sure what division, but is there someone that holds landlords accountable for upkeep on the units?
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
Rent Stabilization
so-
Commission.
Yeah, we have the rent. Sorry, Yvonne, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Andy, sorry.
We have the Rent Stabilization Division and the Rent Stabilization Commission. The division has a few different people who are responsible for that. There's coordinators, information coordinators, who kind of just assist landlords and tenants in any problems they may have. And then there's also staff attorneys. So if things do need to get elevated to that level, then there are staff attorneys, but they don't provide legal assistance to specific people. There is the Coalition for Economic Survival that does a legal clinic at Plumber Park, I think 1 or 2 days a week, or they used to before COVID, and then they went virtual. So I'm not sure if they're back to in person or not. And the city does have a contract with Betzetic Legal Services to also provide eviction protection services and other things along those lines. So I think what the message here is that you want the city to continue its commitment to providing affordable housing, to protecting rent stabilization and tenant protections. So I think, they could be in the same recommendation, or you could have a separate recommendation that's kind of focused on affordable housing and rent stabilization. But it sounds like it's more supporting and endorsing what the city is already doing. And so I think that's something that we could also include in the sort of background and like preamble, to call it something, to this group of recommendations.
That has to be reworded. I was trying to do it so that way they don't have to do 2 recommendations or like an additional one.
How about provide additional funding to the Social Services Division for rental assistance to keep people in their homes and continue to support policies, city policies to provide affordable housing and tenant protections in West Hollywood, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then do we think that last sentence is necessary, or is that more background referencing the pilot program?
Yeah, we can put that in the background. I think it will be important to say that you, the subcommittee members, met with staff who are in strategic initiatives, and you know that there are several programs like Home Key, like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Guaranteed Income Pilot Program that are currently in place, and you're supportive of all of those programs going forward. And these recommendations are, in addition to those existing programs.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay.
Any additional comments? The one thing I don't see on here, Jasmine, is the recommendation of having the social justice task force continue. Were we going to have that in here?
Yes, that's a good point. We can. So technically, I guess I'll throw this out to Andy to get her thoughts, but it may make sense to keep all of these recommendations together as they are, because these are the recommendations that specifically address social justice, systemic racism, that you all were kind of created to address. And then in the report also stating, maybe after these recommendations are listed, the task force also is recommending that the city council continue the social justice task force and make sure their work becomes, I don't know, permanent within the city. Andy, let me know your thoughts, or if you think we should do it differently.
No, I think that's good. I think we can have a separate section after these subcommittees that says, the work continues as the city continues to move forward with different policies and programs aimed to support further social justice and racial equity. The Social Justice Task Force believes that would like to recommend that a body continue in some form to focus on these issues, or I don't know how we phrase it, but we can kind of give some background, and if that's the recommendation that you all would like to make, then we can include that. And maybe we should just take a vote on that tonight to make sure you all want to move that as part of your recommendation, and then we'll include it in the report. And as Jasmine said, you'll see the report at your next meeting in September.
Yeah, I think my only note for what the task force or whatever it ends up becoming, if there's a different term for something that is in perpetuity, is I guess, well, a couple things come to mind. One, that as grateful and wonderful as everybody has been involved in this, that you're not obligated to continue. I think it's sort of like ask everyone individually, do you want to continue? And then the other is just what the differentiation is between this and like the Public Safety Commission and then the LGBT, or like, I think just sort of figuring out who does what is kind of the thing. But I do think that this is important to have consistently throughout every organization within the city.
Yeah. So in terms of the first point, basically when this item goes to council, the Social Justice Task Force in its current form will be disbanded. So if the council members decide to move forward with some type of permanent body, then they would, we would have to, staff and the city attorney would develop the bylaws, and if it's an ordinance or a resolution or however that new body is established, would include how the new members are chosen, how often they meet, all the purview, all of that detail. So I guess that will still be to be determined. We're kind of in just to give you an idea, we're working on the purview for the LGBTQ plus commission right now. And so we're working with the city attorney on that. And there is kind of specific language for commission, specific language for advisory boards. There's other types of permanent structures that have existed, like not necessarily permanent, but the Ethics Reform Task Force is another model where they come together after each election for a certain number of times. So there are different possibilities for what that might look like, and that would kind of be up to the council to decide.
But like Andy already mentioned, if you all want, we can kind of memorialize your feelings about continuing the task force. And we can vote on that so it's reflected in the minutes. And that can also be included in the report if you want.
Yeah, motion to include a line item within the report that extends or looks at the future of this task force within the city of West Hollywood. So note that.
Second.
I think it was Task Force Member Smith. I think I nearly like a second.
I'm okay with it. We're on the same page, same team.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just do a quick roll call. Chair Wilson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Zamopa,
Aye.
Task Force Member Smith,
Aye.
Task Force Member Sephiroth,
Aye.
Task Force Member Morton,
Aye.
Task Force Member Washington.
Aye.
Motion passes. Were there any other, thank you, Andy. Were there any other comments on the subcommittee's recommendations? If not, then great. Okay. Thank you all.
Yeah. So with that said, I guess, are there any items from staff at this point?
No, not on my end. Just to reiterate, we will bring the final report to you all for your review at the September, I believe 27th meeting. Just double check that date. Yes, September 27th. And then we will bring the item to council in October at our second council meeting in October. That date is the 17th, October 17th. So the September meeting will technically be your last meeting. So just a reminder about that.
So we can finally hang out as a group in person after that.
Yes.
All right.
Like I
so-
said, I don't have anything else.
I wanted to, before we move to the next thing, Jasmine didn't make announcements for her two upcoming exciting events that she has that we should let you all know about and invite you to. Next week on Monday night is a Next Gen event, which is kind of focusing on people 40 and under in West Hollywood. And this was an initiative started by Councilmember Horvath like 5 years ago or so, and hopes to get more people involved and learn about the commission's advisory boards and all the things that the city is doing. And it's going to be at the new West Hollywood Park building on the deck there. So it should be really fun. It's at 6:30 if any of you are interested. And then on Wednesday night, we are having a listening session for the historical context study that's currently underway. The consultants are going to be presenting sort of an outline of the information that they have collected so far and get some feedback from people on if they think there's any gaps, if there's anything else they should be looking at, if people have experienced discrimination in some way that would be helpful for the consultants to kind of reevaluate or include in their research. So that's Wednesday, the 31st at 6:30 on Zoom. That will be virtual. Thank you.
I think I've gotten 1 or 2 RSVPs for Next Gen too. So thank you all.
I have to say, personally, I'm sad that I can't be there, but I would have been if I could. The next piece is the public comment on matters not on the agenda. So again, this is time set aside for public comment that could not be heard under public comment item at the beginning of the meeting. The public is given the opportunity to address Social Justice Task Force on any item within its responsibility. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Social Justice Task Force cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes, and the time may be limited or increased based on the discretion of the task force. The public comment period is to address Social Justice Task Force on agenda items and or items of general interest within a jurisdiction of Social Justice Task Force. At this point, I don't know if I see anybody online except for us. Jasmine, maybe you have better purview. Is there anybody else from the public that would probably be speaking?
Nothing on my end either.
All right, so thank you all. I think at this point, the Social Justice Task Force will adjourn until its next and final meeting, in this format at least, on Tuesday, September 27th at 6 p.m., which will also be held virtually. So thank you all for a great session today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye,
you.
everyone.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.